The original tweet. This could cause controversy, but my biggest problem with Avatar: The Last Airbender is how it depicted colonized people as villains for using violence against settlers. Characters like Jet and Hama get horrible treatment simply for fighting back the oppressing nation. Media loves doing extremist rebel with stapled on evil traits as a way to slander radical activists. Oh, the guy wants to force good change in the world and he's willing to do real damage and violence for it. Oh, he eats babies for fun. That's why violent protests are bad.
Not only is this a good take, it highlights my least favorite trope ever, which is, F this villain has legitimate points. Let's have them do something irredeemable so we don't sympathize with them.
If you could actually think critically, you'd realize it's not a bad take and that this is a repeated trope in most shows with this type of politics. Not a bad take, and let me speak on a huge issue I have with the Avatar fandom when people are like, you forgive Azula because although she was a genocidal imperialist maniac who manipulated her friends and brother, she never had a chance with how she was raised. And in the same breath say Jet and Hama are evil and should not be forgiven or understood. I know they were systematically oppressed and watched their people and loved ones be violently murdered or kidnapped in front of them and grew up in war zones, but they should have been better.
What the hell is this?
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder, saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. If you get defensive, it's because you feel insecure about your opinions. Speaking of which, I have been seeing a lot of terrible opinions on Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, people are allowed to have terrible takes. If we tried to purge the world of all stupidity, there would be no one left. And yes, that includes me. Of course, I have bad takes sometimes. I just know when to shut my mouth and when I don't understand something. Not like a lot of people, especially about this particular show. In a way, I feel like Avatar is a show that we didn't actually deserve to enjoy. It seems too good for everyone. It's up there with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but at least that series does a better job of pushing out the crazies. But Avatar is a family show. Kids can watch it. Adults can watch it. Everyone can watch it and enjoy it. It has a very low barrier to entry, and it perfectly ingrains you into this fantasy setting. At the same time, it has extremely dark themes. From the start, it shows you just what the consequences of war truly are. Villages without men or benders, destroyed warships, skeletons, unjust imprisonment, broken spirits, and a burning, hateful desire for revenge, to the point that a few characters themselves become monsters from looking into the abyss for too long.
By the gods, what have I become?
Just look at Jet and Hama. Now, their hatred for the Fire Nation makes perfect sense. I totally get it. Jet lost everything to a raid. He's seen soldiers slaughter innocents. At the same time, his interactions with adults probably only further ingrained his never-ending hatred for the Fire Nation. They probably mentioned to him time and time again that they needed to slaughter every person from the Fire Nation to protect their home. In many ways, he was a product of his environment. Plus, he was not an adult yet. How was he supposed to handle being thrown into a war and being in charge of a large group of children? Hama's case was even worse. She worked to defend her home from invaders, only to see everyone that she fought with taken. When kidnapped herself, she was in captivity for years, with even more restricted movements than in real-life prisons. Her access to water was restricted so much that she was probably dehydrated at all times. I could even see the soldiers holding a spear to her neck whenever she had to use the restroom. Don't want her to use that water after all. Isolation, anxiety, torture. In all honesty, I don't blame her for losing her mind. Both of these cases are very heavy.
Whoa, this is heavy. There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull? What?
The show does a phenomenal job explaining and implying just why these characters are the way that they are. We understand them and sympathize with them. At the same time, the show also never condones their actions. It's obvious from the start that they're going too far. What they're doing is wrong. If Jet was attacking Fire Nation soldiers and taking their supplies, it would have been fine. If Hama escaped and used her abilities on the military, that would have been good too. But that was not the case. They clearly wanted cold-hearted revenge. They didn't go after the real threats. They wanted to make other people suffer just like they suffered. That's why they targeted civilians. But there seems to be a weird group of people in real life that seems to think that these characters' actions are justified. It's fine that Jet was targeting old, weak civilian. It's fine that he was going to flood a town, slaughter children, and destroy the ecosystem.
I don't give a shit for kids.
It's fine that Hama kidnapped civilians and held them in a mountain, probably limiting their food and water like she experienced in prison. All of that was okay because they were wronged first. They have to get revenge. There's no other way other than the obviously right way to go about things. And of course, these brilliant individuals have to compare it to real life situations. Speaking of which, I will reveal exactly what I think and feel about each conflict in the world right now.
Nobody cares. Nice hat.
Yeah, I have no understanding of politics at all when it comes to the greater world. I barely understand what's going on in America right now. I do not comprehend the intricacies of war, territories, foreign affairs, or international conflict. I cannot give you an informed opinion on this. I focus on fake stories, where I know every single detail about what's going on in this tale. I cannot do that with real life. Also, you probably shouldn't get your opinions based off some random dude on the internet. All I can say is that war doesn't make a hero of anyone, and that retaliating to evil with evil is still in fact evil. As an American, I can admit that dropping nuclear bombs on Japan was terrible and horrific. I am honestly surprised that the Japanese still don't want us all dead. But they don't. There isn't conflict there anymore. Although there will be if these damn streamers don't stop going over there to harass those poor unfortunate citizens. And in the case of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the writers seemingly agreed that an eye for an eye makes the world go blind. Jet was shown to lose everything 2 separate times during the course of the show because he was unwilling to give up his hatred and desire for revenge. He did not care about making the world a better place. He cared about taking his own personal suffering and shoving it at other people. His little Lost Boy Neverland group disbanded, and the parallels to Peter Pan should have hinted that this guy was messed up in the head. Peter Pan is not someone that you should want to be. He wants to be a child for his entire existence. We should all grow up at some point. But even when he did learn his lesson, he threw his second chance away the moment he suspected someone of being a firebender. It did not matter if he was right or not.
Stupid is, stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
I guess.
With Hama, I do feel a bit more sympathetic. Jet was close to adulthood. He had support and admiration. Hama was completely alone. She might have lost part of her mind, but she had enough of her faculties to start a new life in the Fire Nation, to target civilians in the most cold and calculated way possible. This proves that she could have made better choices. She could have targeted soldiers or entire military bases, and no one would have been able to stop her. Or she could have used all of her skills to sail away from the Fire Nation, return home, or go to the North Pole to train others in bloodbending and actually help in the war. This proves that she was just out to make other people suffer like she suffered. She wanted innocents to experience her misery. In a lot of ways, her story in the very art of bloodbending itself was to show the horror of this mindset. The twisted results of bloodbending were to demonstrate just how destructive Katara's hatred could have been if she followed through with it. There's a reason that Katara never used that form of waterbending again once she gave up on her revenge. It was supposed to be as symbolic as it was powerful. Of course, the beauty of this writing was thrown away in the sequel series when someone could just do bloodbending whenever they wanted. God, I hate the sequel series sometimes.
Why are you the way that you are? I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Look, I'm no saint. I'm a very justice-oriented person. If someone kicked my dog, I would break that person's leg. If someone attacked my wife, I'd be going to jail that night. But I wouldn't want anyone else hurt, just the person responsible. And if I had to kill a kid to get at that person, I'd give it up. Of course, obviously, only the people that did wrong should be punished. Not gonna lie, if I was in Katara's shoes and I had that guy at my mercy, I probably would have either snapped his neck or dumped him at a military base for execution, because no one else would have suffered but him. So in a way, I can't judge, but there needs to be limits, because punishing the wicked and causing needless suffering to innocents need to be separated. It just keeps the circle of violence going, and we as people need to take accountability for our own actions in our own lives, because that's all we can do. We need to look at objectively bad actions and call them out, especially in fiction, especially in a show that blatantly spells it out for you. Avatar isn't a series with a lot of gray in it. Maybe a little, after all. It does seem to agree with me that evil needs to be stopped before it can hurt more innocent people. Jet, Hama, Firelord Sozin, and even Chin the Conqueror. Kyoshi was awesome, by the way, for admitting that she killed him. Even if she didn't attack him directly, she took responsibility for his death, and that's great. Roku admitted that he was wrong for having too much mercy, so raw forgiveness isn't something to be admired either.
Really makes you think.
If you expect me to go on a rant about real life issues happening right now, you won't get that. I just want people to look at Jet and Hama and realize that they were wrong, of course, but people have messed up moral compasses apparently, and some delusion that they should share this with the world. Jet and Hama were in the wrong. It doesn't matter that they suffered a lot. Just because someone has a hard life doesn't mean that they get to take it out on people who had nothing to do with it. That is called being an asshole. You're welcome to disagree with all of this. That's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
You are a monster.
Yes, I am.
Hey, do you like stories about an interconnected world? Then consider giving my LP Shield books a try. They are all connected in some way, but you can jump in at any point, unless it's a series. Then you have to start at the beginning. But I got 3 books out right now, and 3 coming next year. You will not have to wait long for content. Either way, thank you. I appreciate you. Do not despair.